what's up, NDC? I'm your host, Sharufa Walker, and this is NDC TV Live. Meet the candidates. So, the ecosystem is bubbling, the voting polls are open, and we have the scoop of the candidates, three houses. 29 candidates, and we are bringing you them live and direct. All of the information, all of the tea, all of the insight that you want to know about who these people are and why they're running. We are highlighting them and giving them that one-on-one spotlight today. So, kicking it off, we have Joe. Welcome, Joe.
Oh, thanks for having me.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Awesome. All right, Joe, let's get right into it.
Great.
Let the people know who you are and what brought you to Near.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Joe Spano. I'm half of Ready Layer One podcast and content creation, as well as the lead developer and co-founder of Shard Dog. Jared and I, who's my partner, we've been in Near since 2021. Probably Jared joined a little bit before me, and I came in that fall. We were both kind of in crypto for a while, just in different spots, and we found Near based off the tech. We were really interested, and I especially was interested in being able to build on what Near had to offer. And we kind of got hooked ever since, and now it's been almost 2 years. So
That's amazing. So you're no stranger to content.
no, that's for sure.
You're doing these podcasts all the time, which is great.
Yep.
So let us know a little bit about like why you're running.
Yeah, sure. So I got involved because honestly, I was actually fairly critical of the NDC not too long ago. I wrote a Twitter post that went pretty viral about a month ago now, and really kind of criticizing the focus on governance in the ecosystem versus builders. I'm a little bit probably just biased because I am a builder, but I just felt like the direction was being too far forward on governance. So I voiced my opinion. I had some great dialogues and great conversations with both people in the NDC, people in the Near Foundation, and different groups. And I felt like it was best to embrace what was happening and make sure that my voice could be one that is one of support. I do care a lot about this ecosystem. This is not just a place I'm building and where I do content. I do truly like what Near is trying to achieve from their mission statement, and so I felt like it was not enough to just talk about it and have these conversations, that I needed to put my hat in the ring as well.
So that's amazing. You went from a Twitter rant to now putting your name in the hat. So let us know, what are you running for?
Yeah, I'm running for the Council of Advisors.
Okay. And so with the Council of Advisors, what are you hoping to achieve within this house?
Yeah, so I bring a large amount of experience just from all different angles. So I've been a software developer for almost 20 years now. I've run multiple startups. I've worked at giant corporations. I've done the whole gamut of things, and so I have a large experience of like what it takes to have a successful project. And not that all my projects have been successful by any means, but I've learned from my failures too. And I think I can really help guide, what it really looks like to be successful. And while you can't guarantee that all your grants are going to go to people who are going to do well, things are going to fail, and that's okay. But it's about being realistic and about being able to make sure that people are staying within their means as best as possible. The other side of it is that I think the advisors piece is that's the key word, where helping shape, like, not just financially, but also like the direction of things. I'm deeply involved in the ecosystem as a developer, as a builder, as with an active project, with as a content creator. I know it really well. So to be able to give feedback on what the pulse of the community was, and I think I've demonstrated that too. I mean, from that Twitter post, that was, I really carefully worded it on purpose because I didn't want it to come across as just bashing the ecosystem. And clearly it resonated with a lot of people. And clearly I had the right vision of what's actually happening here. And so I want to be able to continue to lend that to the rest of the ecosystem and governance.
So, in this advisory role in the Council of Advisors, how are you going to be able to ensure there is equal opportunity for all of the participants within the ecosystem in this new governance? Thinking about you are coming from a developer background, but then you also are in the creative economy and the
Yep.
community, right? How do we ensure that all voices are going to be heard and represented?
That's an excellent question, and I think that is a challenge for any group where, I think we could certainly do better that, we're setting guidelines and we're setting, uh, I don't say a mission statement per se, but it's more or less like a forward goal of, look, we want to make sure that we are funding projects that are going to bring users and that we are funding the things that are culturally important as well. I think that's something in any society or any group, the cultural aspect is huge. And that is what not only gets people in the door, it gets people to stay. And so it's really looking at that we are talking to different groups and we're getting that right feedback. And again, that's where I think where I do fits in really well here. I talk to groups all across the globe, from whether it's they need some help with the, using a Shard Dog link, whether they're coming on our podcast, or just in general, just talking. And I think that's really an important piece, that we're not just hyper focused on one area, and we're saying, yep, we want the creatives, we want the builders, we want a little bit of everything.
So we know that the culture drives everything, right? And I know that
Absolutely.
you're definitely baked into that. So thinking about funding, right, and the responsibility of the role in the Council of Advisors, how do you plan to be able to manage this treasury cost effectively and make sure that the roadblocks or the hurdles and challenges of funding that we've experienced in the ecosystem thus far do not
Hmm.
continue?
Yeah, it really comes down to, making sure, and it's not just about myself. It's I hope that, whether I win or not, that the other people who are in there have similar perspectives and able to really evaluate a request from not just a pure like, oh, they're asking for 5,000 versus asking for 20,000. It's really about like, how does that money get used? One of the things that I've heard in talking to different groups is that, you know, like you don't always know the window of your next grant, right? I apply for a grant and maybe I get for 10,000, and I hope that I can reapply maybe in 2 months or 3 months. But you don't always know that. You don't know when that funding is going to be. So it's being able to actually sit and evaluate and have a conversation back with the grant requester to say, what does this really get you? If we can't fund you again in 2 months, are you going to be okay? Because that's where we landed today. We're stuck right now today with projects that are, in no man's land right now, that we're hoping to get funding by now, but now cannot for whatever reason. And so they're just kind of stuck, and it becomes now they're just a dead project because of that. They don't want to be dead. They're not really an actually dead project, but because they're now stuck in funding limbo, this is where we are. So it's really helping ask those questions and have that dialogue with people who are applying to be realistic, because it's sometimes hard to do if you haven't done that before as a project owner or a creator, to really think about what is my long-term vision and can I get there in those pieces.
Yeah, runway is always important, right? And
Absolutely.
onboarding, especially new founders, new community members, and educating them about the importance of runway is really, really big. And I love this idea of having that open dialogue to say, like, listen, hey, we may not be able to fund this 100% the next time, but maybe we can meet you at 25%. Maybe
Right.
we can meet you at 50. But it doesn't just you don't abandon the project and just say no and, kind of
That's
leave
right.
hanging. So I love, love, love that. So, broad question.
Yeah,
Do
sure.
you believe that true decentralized governance is possible?
Yeah. So this is a great question. And that's definitely a broad question. So I if people don't know already, maybe they heard my interview on AVB's podcast, but I come from a deep psychology background. I worked in mental health and behavioral medicine for years. And so I think I get a good sense of how humans kind of behave. And true decentralization really is a difficult concept for a lot of people to understand, because you no longer can be selfish in that scenario. You really have to be selfless, and you really have to focus on the community. And it's very difficult where those incentives have to line up, where you feel like that you're doing a public good, yet you are still feel like that you're benefiting from it. Because even in the beginning, where people feel altruistic, it can easily become, over time, like, oh, how much am I going to give before I get?
Mhm.
So it's really difficult. What I do like, though, and what I do think is possible, is that in Web3, because of the ability through code that you can actually set up some of those guardrails to prevent the some of the, I guess, the human behavior aspects that are not necessarily bad. It's just how we are, that you can kind of guide them a little bit, where it's maybe rotating out who's actually part of these different groups, making sure that people aren't staying in power too long. It's about, no one can make one action unilaterally, right? And so making sure that all those pieces are truly staying there, and you can get there, and you can certainly get to that point where you have enough consensus to get through. But decentralization and working together does not necessarily always mean consensus. I think people have to be comfortable with having disagreements and having things that maybe on this vote you're going to get outvoted. So then maybe next time you need to think about further of like, well, how do I continue to go forward? It can't be a me versus you. And so that's a shift for a lot of people, and I think we can get there as a society and as a group. It's just going to take time to continue to work on that shift.
Yeah, I totally can understand that because the idea of decentralized governance is foreign for so many of us,
Sure.
right? And there's a level of grace that's required to be able to onboard community in this nature, right?
That's
You
right.
having that psychology background, you understand the nuances of the human spirit and the reactionary and the emotional
Totally.
triggers that come up,
Yes.
right? So thinking about, forecasting in the future, right?
Hmm.
You win the seat. You're in the seat. This first term of V1 governance is 6 months, right?
Hmm.
What are your goals? Like, what do you hope to achieve after this first term of governance?
Yeah, I think number one for me would be is setting some clear standards. And by standards I mean, what are the expectations of anyone who comes after me in that seat, of what should you be able to do as an advisor, to be that leader of like, this is what this role entails. It's going to entail this much work. We're going to set these type of rubrics and guidelines of how we're going to evaluate. These are going to be the expectations of how we actually do some feedback and advising. So that way it is hopefully a net positive forward regardless. Take money out of the equation. So instead of just saying, oh, I want to make sure that we fund 50 projects and that's great, and I think that's part of what has to happen regardless. So this is the opportunity to set that standard. And I don't have any desire where I'm saying like my way is going to be the right way, but it needs to start somewhere, and it needs to come out where if I can give a nice template of what I believe is the right approach, and then people can iterate after me, that is a win. That's a success coming out of this V1. And hopefully we continue to grow, because growth is really the number one thing in all aspects.
Yeah, that's amazing. Because what I hear, Joe, is that you're ready to roll your sleeves up and get into some heavy debates. Because I think a lot of debates are going to be happening to be able to get to just a sound place, a sound foundation for this
Absolutely.
V1 governance. And thinking about growth, right? It's so essential. What are some of your plans in thinking about the scalability of NEAR, right?
Hmm.
What are some of the things that you feel as though you can contribute in this seat, in this role to the scalability of NEAR?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So, really, one of the big things is helping fund projects that are really being able to do two things. One is market themselves, and the reason why I say themselves versus near is because it's real. I really believe in the aspect of that, like a rising tide lifts all boats, right? So that if you can better market your project and you can get people in, that is a net win for everyone, and everyone can start going there. So that's so helping that projects understand the power of true marketing and what that really is super important. The other side of it really for me for growth is that we are funding things that are sticky and that are community based. And that's where that we talk about before culture, right? Like that's where the culture really comes in, is that I want you to feel at home when you come to near what any kind of project. I want you to come into a project where you feel like that you can stay there and feel safe and feel comfortable and feel appreciated. And then you can go to another project and feel the same way. And that is something that at near we don't really have that full culture yet. We have a builder's culture, one that I really appreciate that anyone who is a developer knows about, of how nice it is to actually build here. The second side now has to be, how do you feel that same, I guess we'll call it love, right? As a community member as well.
Absolutely. You know, we talk about a community a lot within the ecosystem and Web3 at large, right? But do we really understand the culture of community, right?
Right.
And I love the fact that you really want to be able to incubate that, because some feel that that is a missing component within the ecosystem, right? And
Definitely
we
is.
do need the love for sure, 1000%. So, in thinking about the good, the bad, the ugly of near, right?
Yeah.
Because we got to be transparent, we got to be
No,
honest.
absolutely.
Give us your take.
Yeah. We've I would say it's gone up and down over the past 2 years that I've been here, where I think early on, right, and we're in the heat of the bull market, everything feels euphoric because everything is just up only, right? And everyone, so you miss the things that are happening underneath, right? Because everyone's making money and everyone is happy and prices going up and all that stuff. Where I think things kind of have gone sideways, and this is a larger crypto thing, not just near, but especially we're talking about near here, is that when that went away, I think we realized that that community piece really was missing and gone. And it really felt like that there were some core groups that were still trying to push through, but they were all segmented, right? And I get that it's easy to do that because one, like geographic location, right? Like it's hard. Like if you're in one place versus another, sure, like it's you can't get together. But we all kind of have a similar mission. And so the fact that we were never able yet, well, not never, but we haven't yet figured out how to start to align different groups that, like I talk to groups like, whether it's in near Asia or near Africa, and they have similar goals and outcomes they're looking for. But, obviously they're going to have different cultural needs and different ways of delivering maybe their information, but maybe they can learn from each other. And so we never had that. We haven't had that yet, where they can come and work together and figure that out. So as we look forward, is if we can start saying, hey, we did a poor job with the larger community stuff early on, but now is a chance to fix that, not just through funding, but also through making those connections, using the NDC to say, hey, they applied for this, like here, near Vietnam applied for this grant, right? And near Africa applied for this grant. They're very similar. Why don't you guys talk and see? Now, we'll still fund you, but let's talk and see if there's any synergy. Can we streamline anything? Can we get you guys working together to continue to move forward? Or can we learn, as a group from what your outcomes are? So that to me is like super important, that we're not just letting that go and leaving that up to these groups to do on their own.
Yeah, I think that that's powerful, because collaboration and learning through collaboration, we know that as a human race, there's so much that we can benefit from that. So, in wrapping this thing up, Joe,
Sure.
tell the voters one thing you want to leave them with, one thing that they should know about you and why they should vote for you.
Yeah, sure. I think the number one thing for me is that I am not just one sided. I come across as a builder first because that is what my job is. I'm a developer, but I am community and culturally focused, and I want to make sure that these things are coming together. And so, if you're looking for candidates that understand both sides of it and really want to focus on all those things, I'm your guy.
Awesome. And let people know your near handle, how to vote for you.
Yeah. So on the election, so it's my name, joespano.near. You can find me there, and my avatar is a little dog in a general's uniform.
Awesome. Well, best of luck to you, Joe. Congratulations for
Thank you.
putting your name in the hat. We know that that wasn't an easy ask going from a Twitter rant to now an NDC
Yeah.
candidate. So we're wishing you all the best.
Thank you.
Make sure you stay tuned, stay up to date to what's happening in the election through our Twitter space, through our YouTube. Your voice matters. This is the opportunity of a lifetime. So get out, vote. The polls are closing September 22nd. All right, y'all. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.